Thank you. That was a really excellent conversation we just heard because it touched on so many of the things that you and I have been talking about for a while now. Um, but my first question to you is, how's your Davos going?
Oh man, it is a lot colder than Lagos. uh, so that's been an adjustment. Managed to get a coat 2 weeks ago, thank God.
Where do you get that yaba? Okay, we'll stop the routine. No, Chris is the founder of Yellow Card, which is obviously simple terms, a crypto company, but he's going to really sort of break down the work he has done from scratch. Started the company literally from your dorm at college and moved to Lagos. And it'd be just interesting to have you just talk through what you're doing, what's different, just so that people who are less familiar can really understand what's different.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a high level, what we do is we're the largest licensed stablecoin payments infrastructure for Africa and the broader emerging world. And so, essentially, we use stablecoins, so crypto pegged to the dollar, to enable businesses across the continent to be able to make international payments, manage their treasury, and really just access the dollar. I think when you go anywhere in the world, right, what people are really interested in is the dollar. Everybody everywhere in the world wants the dollar. And when you look broadly across the continent, you have 54 countries. 70% of them have declared an FX crisis. There's not enough dollars available on the continent, and you're talking about countries that are extremely import dependent, that are constantly in need of foreign capital. And so stablecoins are the first technology that actually help to alleviate that pressure on foreign reserves, help keep money within the country, while also allowing the economy to continue to function, right? Allowing critical imports, food, medicine, et cetera, to be able to flow into these countries.
Yeah. I mean, I was curious about how this works, like sort of the use cases that you say are typical that really helped to, sort of build the business so far?
Yeah, look, I'll give you a practical example, right? So we work with one of the largest food producers on the African continent. So these guys are based out of Nigeria, and they import raw materials to make food from Switzerland and the UK. And so, that import requires dollars, right? Look, some people consider food essential. I'm not going to, opine on how dollars get divvied up. But the bottom line is they're not able to access the dollars that they need to be able to continue to feed the country and the continent more broadly. And so, the way that these transactions used to work is you go to a bank, you fill out forms, you go pray to whatever deity you believe in, and then 6 to 9 months later, maybe you get 10% of what you asked for. Stable coins just help to alleviate that entire process and alleviate so much pressure that's on these companies. And so, now using stable coins, these guys are able to make that payment directly to these suppliers, bring in raw materials, continue to manufacture food, feed the country, right? Feed the continent. Same thing with a large pharmaceutical supplier, right? They import from India. They need dollars to get these, drugs and medicine and everything into the continent. And so, we work with, companies in critical industries that are importing things that people need to survive, right? We also work with a number of fintech companies. We work with a number of remittance companies, just making it easier for money to flow, right? Stable coins are the easiest way on earth to move money from point A to point B. If you didn't know that, now you do. There's nothing better than stable coins for moving that money around. And what we do is try to localize that and actually bring that benefit to the continent as opposed to just having it live out in the on-chain ecosystem somewhere.
So talk to us about the sort of regulatory environment. Now, obviously you started in Nigeria, you've gone to other countries on the continent. How many countries are you in now?
20.
20. Okay, so just talk to us a little bit about, sort of your journey in getting regulators to work with you guys or to allow you guys to work, so to speak.
Yeah, well, look, I will say the regulators were easier than the investors in the early days. Because when I was going around in 2019 telling people I was going to sell Bitcoin in Nigeria, apparently there was something that wasn't very attractive about that. I think regulation and licensing was always a key part of that strategy to actually be able to grow the business from the ground. And so, we did, a ton of work. I mean, we still do a ton of work with regulators, central bank ministers, finance ministers, et cetera, around the continent on helping them understand this technology, right? This is a brand new technology, right? Nobody was born understanding how a blockchain works or how crypto works or anything like. A lot of y'all probably still don't understand it. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I understand everything, right? The industry moves so quickly that it's very difficult to keep up with, and so a lot of what we do is education, right? Working with these guys to make sure that they understand the space. The best that they can, that they understand where the benefits of this space lie. What does the country, what does any individual country have to gain from, this industry, from this technology? How does it help businesses? How does it promote investment? How does it, promote hiring, right? How does it help alleviate, youth unemployment in these countries as companies are able to grow and invest and hire more on the ground? And so, we do a lot of that work, and then, we go the whole way, right? I mean, so we're the ones that are actually drafting the regulations in a number of these countries, handing them over, and then, trying to work to actually get these presented and pushed through.
I'm interested in how receptive. I mean, where have regulators, central bankers been most receptive in terms of, we'll hear you out. Talk us through this. Is that generally the reception, or do you have some people just like don't bother?
Yeah.
What's that?
I will say, I mean, it's changed a lot over the past couple of years,
Okay.
right? And then it has changed drastically over the past couple of months.
Okay.
And so, what I would say, about 2.5 years ago, we saw a pretty clear sea change from, like, what's this digital money? I don't, whatever, do your thing, to engagement, right? And to actually wanting to work with us, understand the space, understand the technology, understand how to regulate it, how to keep people safe, how to, stop, terror financing, things like that, but also how to promote innovation. And, every year since then, it's just gotten better and better, right? So, in 2022, we got the first actual crypto license on the continent, and that was in Botswana. And that was about all that happened that year. And then 2023, you have Nigeria, South Africa, Rwanda, Morocco, et cetera, coming out with, or at least proposing regulations around the space, right? Last year, you had South Africa actually issuing licensing. You have, the SEC in Nigeria taking over the licensing process. You have, Rwanda's talking about having something ready for this year, and a number of other countries have sandboxing, right? And, now in 2025, I think part of it is probably the Trump effect, right? Last 3 months, the now president of the United States has been talking about Bitcoin. He's been talking about crypto. He's been talking about the industry. And so all of a sudden, these banks, these regulators that didn't really want to talk about it that much before, well, they're calling and asking, this is a national priority in the U.S. What are we missing? What's going on in this industry that we don't understand that makes it so important to him and his administration? And so, I think it's come a long way in even just the last couple of months. And
So this is about crypto in general, right? Because stablecoin and what's the thing called, Trump coin, whatever it was. They're slightly different things. Like, so I'm just trying to understand. I feel like that the thinking must have changed, even with, as you pointed out very early on, this sort of forex crisis that you have around the continent. What are these regulators starting to see in terms of how this might help them? Because clearly, or frankly, help their country, which it should be their priority, really.
Yeah.
What do you think they're starting to see? What have you been able to perhaps show them and encourage them with the types of regulations you've helped them draft?
Yeah, I think what they've seen in practice is, number one, people are already using this technology. I think something that people don't necessarily know because it doesn't get well publicized. Nigeria is the #1 country on earth for stablecoins. Number 2 for crypto overall. You have Kenya and South Africa in the top 10 globally for crypto adoption. You have 6 countries in Africa that have cracked the top 20 on earth for adoption of this technology. So this is not a new burgeoning technology that nobody is using on the continent, right? This is a technology that the continent is leading adoption of by almost every given metric. I think what regulators have seen over the past couple of years is you have businesses that are already utilizing this technology every day, right? I mean, look, especially in West Africa, what I like to tell everybody is businesses are either using this or they're lying about it, right? Because there's not a lot of options when it comes to actually making these international payments and keeping your business running. And so I think what the regulators have been able to see is sort of real life trials of this technology, right? They're seeing the way that businesses are able to keep imports flowing, keep the economy functioning, right? Especially in countries where 80-90% of consumer goods are imported, right? They're able to keep this stuff coming in, and all without hard dollars having to leave the economy. Because that's what the regulators really care about, right? Is what are the foreign reserves, right? That's what they're reporting. That's how you prop up the currency. That's how you maintain debt. That's how you get loans from the IMF. That's how you do all of this stuff, right? So that's what they really care about, and this technology helps to alleviate the pressure on those foreign reserves.
Earlier, I asked you that just because you're so immersed in this space, to sort of share your top pet peeves, the myths you'd love to burst about the sort of crypto space in Africa. Aside from the fact it's very well used, the sort of misunderstandings that you see a lot that are causing either people to be reluctant to take it up or causing regulators to be even more aggressive than they need to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall risk of the space. I'm not going to say that it's not warranted when you have guys in the Bahamas that steal $11 billion, but the sort of overall risks of the space, especially somewhere like Africa, where 99+% of the usage of this technology is on stable coins, is a little overblown, right? It's that people are not going around trading Trump coin and holding on to Doge and praying that the price goes up before they make their payment or anything like that, right? This is a technology that's it's not replacing local currencies. It's not threatening local payments. What it's doing is it's replacing SWIFT. And it's replacing the correspondent banking system. And I can guarantee you, and this goes for everybody in the room, whether you like the technology, you hate the technology, you think it's stupid, vaporware, whatever, within 10 years, you will not be using SWIFT. You will not be making international wires the way that they happen today. You might still do it through the bank, but it's all going to be flowing through USDC. It's all going to be flowing through USDT, through stable coins, right? This is how money is actually crossing borders in practice. And like I said, Africa is just leading the way for that adoption.
Right. And just to wrap up as we come to the end, talk a little bit. And you started to talk about it there in terms of the use cases, but also the sort of impact that you've seen running this business for the last 6 years now.
Well, COVID counts as 12 years, so I think that makes it 18. Yeah, so I think the impact is something that we are constantly looking at and trying to measure. And I think the more that we try to measure it, the more difficult it actually becomes to measure, right? Because I think it's actually quite difficult to understand the impact on. Look, it's easy to understand the impact on a business, right? When you look at the last several years. Look, Johnson & Johnson and so many other major companies that have left countries in Africa because of the FX shortage, because of the FX crisis. There are so many companies that have just shut down, fired everybody, and gone. No more investment, no nothing. And so, when you work with businesses and you are able to, see those businesses grow, you're able to see them continue to hire, right? Actually ramp up hiring, ramp up, production, things like that. That's a pretty good and, easy impact to measure. I think the impact that's harder to measure is the sort of long-term implications of that. Okay. Right? You're talking about a continent of, again, very young people that are very ambitious. So what are the implications of that 20-year-old that now got hired that previously was not going to be. Now he has a job, he has an income, he's gonna turn around, start his own company, he's gonna hire 6 more people, right? And I say that because, I mean, you know, look, we've only been around for 6 years, and we have, I think, 7 now companies that are former Yellow Card employees that have raised seed funding for their startups. Right, people are just extremely ambitious, and so you know the impact I think is difficult to measure because you know like I said, you know, you create those jobs, that one job that you create, well, that guy turns around, creates several more jobs, and you know, and then it's a chain reaction, right? And so it's quite difficult actually to measure the impact out for long periods of time, but I think it's immense when you bring jobs and investment and opportunity to the continent.
Yeah, it's the big call. If you attend any of the presidents or ministers speaking from Africa, it's the number one thing that they raise. Obviously, with it being a young continent, how to create jobs, and you know, if you're having some of that impact, that's the thing to be proud of. Well done, Chris, and thank you for joining us.
Just trying to make you proud, man.
Thank you, Chris.